to engage in the luxury of cooling off or to take the tranquilizing drug of gradualism. Now is the time to make real the promises of democracy. Now is the time to rise from the dark and desolate valley of segregation to the sunlit path of racial justice. Now is the time to lift our nation from the quicksands of racial injustice to the solid rock of brotherhood. Now is the time to make justice a reality for all of God's children. It would be fatal for the nation to overlook the urgency of the moment. This sweltering summit of the Negro's legitimate discontent will not pass until that is an invigorating autumn of freedom and equality. 1963 is not an end, but a beginning.
1963 is not an end, but a beginning. Martin Luther King from the Dream speech 50 years ago today at the March on Washington for Jobs and Freedom. Tufts history professor Peniel Joseph with us. I'm curious, Professor, in your book, Dark Days, Bright Nights, From Black Power to Barack Obama, do you reference the fierce urgency of now and tie its use by King in 1963 to its use by Barack Obama in 2008?
Yes, I do. And Obama used that term, fierce urgency of now, very, very successfully in 2008. It lent credibility to his campaign and his articulation that he was part of a Joshua generation, that King had been part of that Moses generation and that figure that led African Americans to see that promised land of racial freedom and justice. And he was part of a Joshua generation that had benefited from all that King had done. But there was a fierce urgency 45 years later in 2008 to right the old wrongs and to move the country further in terms of racial progress and economic justice. So he uses that very, very effectively in terms of as a campaign tactic. Now, King used it not to run for office, but to try to transform a nation and lead a social movement. So there's a difference between how these two gentlemen used it, but certainly Obama has used it effectively in 2008. But one thing I'll say, in 1963, when King is saying the fierce urgency of now, that summer of 63 is really the first summer of racial discontent. Some people will say it's 64 with Harlem and 65 with Watts, but Birmingham explodes in the summer of 63. So the first summer of national civil disorders is actually the summer of the March on Washington.
Ron in Brooklyn, you're on WNYC. You were at the march?
Hi, Brian. Thanks for all you do. Yes, I was at the march. I grew up in the Bronx with immigrant socialist parents who taught me all about racial equality. And then when I was 14, we took a trip down to Florida, and I saw firsthand what segregation looked like. But to be there at the age of 24 with my wife, I guess the feeling I would say is I was proud to be white, to see so many white people among so many other people, because the overwhelming feeling was that of defiance. And I was just thrilled to be there. I was standing about a football field away from the stage and seeing all my heroes like Pete and Joan Baez and Mahalia Jackson on stage. It was just such an overwhelmingly wonderful feeling.
Ron, thank you very much. And here's one of your heroes sneaking in right now. Joan Baez and Martin Luther King in the Dream speech, and we'll play part of this passage, spoke to people like Ron, the white people in the crowd. We'll hear that. We'll talk more to history professor Peniel Joseph and hear more of your oral history of being at the March on Washington for Jobs and Freedom 50 years ago today. 212-433 WNYC.
WNYC is supported by Memorial Sloan Kettering Cancer Center, the best cancer care anywhere, where prostate cancer specialists collaborate to offer personalized treatment plans designed to stop the cancer, optimize quality of life, and avoid unnecessary treatment. More at mskcc.org. WNYC gratefully acknowledges the backing of our corporate underwriters and would like to add your business to our list of diverse supporters. To become a WNYC underwriter, call Senior Director Lori Pracher at 646-829-4477.
Tony-winning director Lloyd Richards had one word for playwright August